How are y'all?
Doing well, Judge. How are you?
Good. I think this is 003-1722-2021 GBH Inc. and the Furby Corporation versus the Weisses and Steps America Inc. Probably I'll start with who you are and who you represent.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Tom Capioltis. I represent GVH Inc. and the Furby Corporation.
Okay.
John Strain for defendant Alan Weiss.
Yeah, you have to speak up a little bit. The court reporters have a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Defendant John Strain for Alan Weiss.
Okay. And I have read, it looks like there was some information produced in response to subpoenas regarding some corporations and some, I guess, a real estate transaction. And now they want to take, now the plaintiff wants to take the depositions of, is it the Witt? Is that right?
And Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting. Right now, it's only a document request, so it's not a subpoena. It's a subpoena for documents. It's not a formal deposition.
Okay. I guess you just start. I've read everything, but go ahead and share what your thoughts are from the plaintiff's perspective.
Yes, Your Honor. And I filed a response motion this morning. It got rejected last night, so I'm not sure if you saw that.
I have seen it, yes.
Thank you. So our position is, we're the judgment creditor, and we're trying to find out if Mr. Weiss has any money or if he's hiding any money that the plaintiff can legally attach to. Now, we believe that Mr. Weiss, as an owner, has an ownership interest in the company called Witt Properties, LLP. Now, Mr. Weiss has denied to us in response to interrogatories and has represented to the court its motion that he has no ownership interest or no interest in this company called Witt Properties, LLP. So the parties that we're looking to subpoena, and neither of the parties that we actually subpoenaed filed an objection, but the parties that we're looking to subpoena are Witt Properties, LLP, the company that we believe Mr. Weiss has an ownership interest in. And then CEC Witt Partners, LLC, and Capital Equity Capital, LLC. And then there was also Old Witt Enterprises, LLC. So those companies all have similar names, but essentially they're all the parties that sold. It's 3 parcels of land in Frisco that they sold for. Old Witt Enterprises sold 1 parcel for $2 million, over $2 million to the Witt Properties entity. And then CEC Witt Partners and Capital Equity Capital sold 2 adjoining lots to them. So the reason why we're interested in documents from the closing transaction and from this transaction is because oftentimes in a real estate transaction, a lot of information needs to be shared between the parties in order to close the transaction, including maybe a partnership agreement or checks or money is transferred. And we're trying to find out, are these companies truly separate from Mr. Weiss, or is he related to them? So some of the limited documents that we were able to find already, lead us to the belief that Mr. Weiss does have an interest in these companies despite his representations. Regarding the $2 million sale, we included a check for $500 for the down payment that came from a company called BudgetDoors.net. And so that was the earnest money on the contract to purchase the property. And Mr. Weiss has previously testified that he is BudgetDoors.net. Then there was a check. So I apologize. Let me back up. So the purchase price was just over $2 million, and they had to come up with $250,000 as a down payment out of pocket, and then they financed the rest. So towards that $250,000 that they had to come up with, there was a check for $3,892 that came from a company called Steps America Inc. Now, Alan Weiss is the sole owner of Steps America Inc. And Steps America Inc. filed for bankruptcy, and they didn't disclose any interest in this WIT Properties entity or that they made this transfer. And then there was a $30,000 down payment from a company called Home Floors, which is a DBA of Steps America, which again is Alan Weiss's company. Then there was so they financed $1.8 million of this $2 million purchase. And on the deed of trust that's recorded in the property records, Alan Weiss is listed as the borrower for $1,829,500. And then Alan Weiss personally signed a guarantee for $1,829,500. And as far as the purchase contract goes to purchase the property, the contract was signed and it's Alan Weiss or assignee WIT Properties LLP as buyer. And then when he signed it buyer, or the signature block read buyer WIT Properties LLP, or assigns Alan Weiss as representative. So we think that, if he has no interest in this company, why is he guaranteeing a $1.8 million loan? Why is he a borrower? Why has his companies contributed at least over $30,000 towards his down payment? Now, they did provide the partnership agreement for WIT Properties LLP, and the partners were listed as Catalia Quinlan as the 85% owner. And Catalia Quinlan is an employee of Steps America, which is Alan Weiss's company. And we also submitted checks showing that Alan Weiss had paid Catalia Quinlan checks that he had listed as payroll checks. And then just through an internet search, we also found out that Catalia Quinlan and Mr. Weiss recently registered for a baby registry together. So we think there's another relationship there. And then the second largest partner in WIT Properties LLP is Hugo Esquivel. And Hugo Esquivel is also an employee of Steps America Inc. And we submitted some checks that we found where Alan Weiss submitted some checks showing payroll where he's paying Esquivel as an employee. So essentially we said that these partners that somehow came up with $2 million to purchase this property were employees of Steps America, which is owned by Alan Weiss, and other Alan Weiss related companies and entities essentially funded the down payment for this company. So therefore we think that there's compelling evidence already out there. And we think that if we can get some additional documentation from the sale of the other tracts, it'll probably reaffirm or add some additional evidence to help us bolster our position that Mr. Weiss does have an ownership interest in this property, and that as a judgment creditor, maybe we can go after some of his other interests that he's appears that he's trying to hide. And we filed a proposed order. We're not asking for particular confidence. We're in our proposed order that we had previously submitted to opposing counsel. We said, look, if you've got some trade secret information, you can withhold your trade secret information. Just give us a withholding statement so we know what you're withholding. Delete out Alan Weiss's social security number. We don't need a social security number. And we also said that, if you're worried about turning over any attorney-client information, you can withhold any kind of attorney-client privilege. We're not trying to seek that. So, we think that our proposed order was reasonable. We think our discovery on these three entities that sold the property to Mr. Weiss and the one company that we think is essentially Mr. Weiss is reasonable. And I think it'll help us lead to some more evidence that'll help us, attach money and find his assets so we can obtain money as the judgment creditor. Thank you, Your Honor.
What's the defendant's position?
Yes, Your Honor. And the defendant doesn't have an issue with the production of the documents regarding the sale of the property, but the requests are overly broad when it comes to communications between the parties prior to sale and negotiations. And so and part of the reason is that WIT Properties LLP, which the agreement has been produced that shows the ownership percentages of the LLP, which Mr. Weiss is not an owner of WIT Properties LLP, according to the agreement.
Hang on a second. Yeah, the court report can't hear. You ready? All right, we're good to go.
Start over or?
Yeah, I'd start over.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'll try and yell a little bit louder. So, the request, like I was saying, we don't have an issue with the documents regarding the sales of the property. Prior to this hearing, counsel for, Old Wit Properties and plaintiff reached an agreement regarding production of documents. And then that was the contract, the note, a settlement statement, and the guarantee that was signed by Mr. Weiss. He is a guarantor of the note for the purchase of the property because it is owner financed with regard to the 1927 Wick Road. It's just the overbroadness of the request that we feel need to be narrowed. And that is the main crux of our motion to quash, is that these requests are overbroad and need to be narrowed, and that they're harassing in nature because Wick Properties LLP is going to be Steps America's new landlord, and I don't want to taint that relationship as Steps America is coming out of bankruptcy and a current bankruptcy organization plan, so they can continue to make payments under the plan and continue to be open for business once they vacate the premises owned by plaintiffs. And so that's my concern there, is that these requests are going to taint that relationship and run up costs for Steps America's new landlord.
Okay. Well, I've read the proposed order that was provided by the plaintiffs, and I think it does narrow down some of the discovery requests. But discovery is all about looking for relevant information that might lead to the discovery of admissible evidence, and I think that's it kind of is broad, and so I think I'm gonna go ahead and grant the motion, deny the motion to quash and allow the discovery to take place. Okay.
All right, and if we can enter the proposed protective order protecting the confidential information and personal information.
Yeah, I will.
By the judge.
Have y'all filed the protective order?
We have not, Your Honor.
Okay, if you would send me a protective order, I'll get that signed also. Just tell your client what they get, they can't share with the world.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. See you later.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.